The power hierarchy within the Cleveland Browns locker room has shifted dramatically, and anyone not paying attention is overlooking one of the most compelling narratives in the NFL right now. Myles Garrett, the unquestioned commander of Cleveland's defense and arguably the most dominant defensive force in the league, just delivered a public endorsement of Shedeur Sanders that carries enormous weight and unmistakable intent toward Kevin Stefanski and the coaching staff. His message was simple but thunderous. This is our quarterback now, and do not mishandle this moment. When the face of the franchise throws his support behind a fifth-round rookie following his very first NFL start, it's not casual praise. It's a declaration, a line drawn boldly in the dirt, a signal that Sanders has earned genuine credibility from teammates and deserves the keys to this offense. Garrett made this stance clear immediately after a game where he recorded 3 sacks in a defensive masterpiece that totaled 10 sacks overall. He could have glorified his own performance, basked in defensive dominance, but instead he used his podium to spotlight the young quarterback, zeroing in on a throw he believes few NFL passers are capable of making. "There are not many guys in the league who can make that throw," Garrett said in reference to Shedeur's 50-plus yard strike to Isaiah Bond, and that single sentence is loaded with meaning. Garrett is not merely another teammate giving courtesy approval. He's a multi-time first-team All-Pro, a Defensive Player of the Year, and the foundation upon which this entire franchise stands. His evaluations carry authority, so when he says, "Shedeur made a throw most quarterbacks cannot replicate," that is not flattery. That is a veteran anchor identifying elite talent with trained eyes sharpened by years of chasing the best in the world. The throw itself, a 52-yard rope delivered on the move under collapsing protection, was not a simple completion or a schemed open target. It was raw arm strength, poise amid chaos, instinctive improvisation, and fearless confidence. The Browns' sideline was visibly stunned, players celebrating with genuine disbelief, as if they themselves could barely process what they had witnessed. You cannot invent that kind of reaction. That is real recognition from professionals who understand the difficulty of such a play. And it wasn't an isolated flash. Shedeur connected on a 39-yard touch throw to Jerry Jeudy, fired a screen that Dillon turned into a 66-yard touchdown, and consistently attacked every tier of the field with versatility that has the locker room buzzing. His ascent makes this storyline even richer, considering he was once projected by analysts as a first-round selection, even a potential top 10 pick, only to sit through round after round without hearing his name called. Yet now, in Cleveland, he has delivered a debut so electrifying that the franchise's most powerful voice has essentially proclaimed him QB1. When he was finally taken by the Cleveland Browns with the 144th pick in the 5th round, it was both a relief that his name was called and a stunning reminder of how unexpectedly far he had slipped. Explanations for his draft slide varied depending on who you asked. Some scouts cast doubt on his arm strength, though anyone watching him effortlessly launch the ball more than 50 yards downfield would struggle to justify that critique. Others questioned whether he could thrive without his father coaching him, while whispers circulated about contract language concerns and equity clauses complicating negotiations. Add in the usual skepticism that follows high-profile prospects who receive heavy media spotlight, and the picture becomes clearer. Yet the true challenge began once Shedeur entered Cleveland. He wasn't merely low on the depth chart, he was buried as quarterback 4 behind Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, and fellow rookie Dylan Gabriel. For a player who had been a full-time starter in college and had guided programs to success at Jackson State and Colorado, being relegated that far down the roster had to be humbling, maybe even infuriating. Many young quarterbacks in his position would have sulked, complained publicly, or sought a trade. Shedeur instead kept quiet, lowered his head, and went to work. His preseason outing against the Panthers was his first real window to prove himself, and he seized it, making plays, displaying poise, and reminding everyone why he was once considered a top-tier prospect. But even after that strong showing, nothing changed. He remained 4th string, barely saw practice snaps with starters, and was treated like a long-term project who might never see a meaningful snap. Meanwhile, the criticism targeting him became personal and often unfair. He was labeled arrogant, self-absorbed, and entitled. Detractors claimed his publicity existed only because of his father's legacy. They insisted he lacked the humility and work ethic to survive in the NFL. What those critics failed to recognize was simple. Shedeur never whined, never demanded a trade, never threw his coaches under the bus. He came in daily, executed scout team duties, prepared like a professional, and tuned out the noise surrounding him. That quiet discipline earned respect inside the Browns' locker room, especially from seasoned veterans who recognize real dedication when they see it. They watched him grind through limited reps, observed how he studied, carried himself, and kept pushing without complaint, and slowly, he earned their trust. By the time his opportunity arrived, only because Dylan Gabriel entered concussion protocol, Shedeur had already won over players through behavior rather than rhetoric. Myles Garrett's public endorsement is the clearest example, but far from the only one. During his debut start, you could see teammates rallying around him with genuine excitement. After big plays, they didn't offer half-hearted taps or polite support. They mobbed him with raw enthusiasm, the sideline buzzing with energy that hadn't been present all season. That is what happens when a locker room truly believes in its quarterback. And now Kevin Stefanski stands at the crossroads of one of the most pivotal decisions of his coaching career. Gabriel is still in concussion protocol with no definitive return date, but even when he is cleared, the decision will be anything but simple. Gabriel began the season as the starter, and there is always organizational pressure to stick with the original plan for the sake of continuity and perceived stability. Stefanski could argue that one brilliant performance doesn't override months of evaluation, but countering that is the undeniable fact that Shedeur Sanders just became the first Browns rookie quarterback in 3 decades to win his debut, igniting the offense, energizing the locker room, and earning open endorsement from the franchise's most influential leader. The fan base is already demanding he keeps the job, and momentum like this cannot easily be put back in a cage. His ascent makes this storyline even richer, considering he was once projected by analysts as a first-round selection, even a potential top 10 pick, only to sit through round after round without hearing his name called. Yet now, in Cleveland, he has delivered a debut so electrifying that the franchise's most powerful voice has essentially proclaimed him QB1. The momentum now leans completely in Shedeur's favor, and more importantly, he demonstrated that he can perform at this level and deliver victories, which is ultimately the only metric that matters. Saying there is no longer a desire for Dylan Gabriel to return as the starting quarterback may sound bold, but when you consider the reactions from players, the emotional surge on the sidelines, and the undeniable spark in the building during Shedeur's debut, the statement feels far less exaggerated. When your defensive cornerstone steps to the podium after a dominant win and uses his moment not to highlight himself, but to praise the rookie quarterback's arm talent and poise when teammates explode with authentic joy after every big play, when the energy around the team fundamentally shifts the moment the rookie takes command, you don't need anyone to spell out the locker room's preference. The message is already written in capital letters. The players believe in Shedeur Sanders. This leaves Kevin Stefanski in an extraordinarily delicate position. Should he reinstate Dylan Gabriel as the starter once he clears concussion protocol, he risks going directly against the pulse of the locker room. That decision could alienate veteran leadership, frustrate the fan base desperate for continued change under center, and ignite a full-scale quarterback controversy that could overshadow and unravel the season. But if Stefanski chooses to ride with Shedeur, he is simultaneously admitting that the initial evaluations and depth chart decisions were flawed. He would be acknowledging that the fourth-string quarterback, deprived of meaningful reps, was the superior option all along. For any head coach, especially one already under scrutiny, that kind of reversal is not easy to swallow. It becomes a clash, not just of players, but of pride, philosophy, and organizational judgment. The Shedeur Gabriel contrast only sharpens this dilemma. Gabriel entered the season with every structural advantage: higher draft placement, first team practice snaps, preseason priority, the role essentially handed to him. Yet one cannot watch Shedeur's debut film and ignore the question hovering over everything. How was this talent sitting at QB4? Gabriel's concussion, an unfortunate and completely uncontrollable moment, inadvertently opened a door that Sanders sprinted through without hesitation. Sports history is filled with careers defined by a single unexpected opportunity, and Shedeur responded with poise, precision, and history-making execution. He earned respect not through talk but through performance. The looming matchup with the San Francisco 49ers only amplifies this drama. The Niners' defense is a different level of test. Faster, tougher, more disciplined, a true benchmark for a young quarterback. If Shedeur starts and shines again, the narrative shifts from inspiring moment to undeniable reality. This is no temporary spark, this is the future. But if he struggles, critics will swarm, labeling the Raiders' win as an anomaly and questioning his readiness for the weekly brutality of NFL competition. Regardless of outcome, that game becomes appointment viewing because the franchise's direction may hinge on it. Stefanski's post-game hesitation speaks volumes. His praise for Shedeur was measured but cautious, carefully avoiding commitment. That neutrality isn't accidental. It's strategy, an attempt to keep doors open and avoid premature allegiance. Yet indecision breeds uncertainty, and uncertainty corrodes unity. Football players want clarity. They want a general to march behind. They want to know whose voice commands the huddle, whose rhythm they will build with, whose success they will fight for. A lukewarm stance helps no one. Myles Garrett did not need to issue a direct challenge for the message to resonate. His endorsement itself is the warning. When your most respected player makes it clear where he stands, a head coach ignores that signal at his own risk. But countering that is the undeniable fact that Shedeur Sanders just became the first Browns rookie quarterback in 3 decades to win his debut, igniting the offense, energizing the locker room, and earning open endorsement from the franchise's most influential leader. The fan base is already demanding he keeps the job, and momentum like this cannot easily be put back in a cage. His ascent makes this storyline even richer, considering he was once projected by analysts as a first-round selection, even a potential top 10 pick, only to sit through round after round without hearing his name called. Yet now, in Cleveland, he has delivered a debut so electrifying that the franchise's most powerful voice has essentially proclaimed him QB1. By publicly elevating Shedeur's skill set and pointing to throws that most NFL quarterbacks simply cannot execute, Myles Garrett is essentially telling his head coach, "This is a rare talent. Do not mishandle it." When the cornerstone of your defense, the emotional heartbeat of your roster, and the most influential voice in your entire franchise stands up and endorses the rookie quarterback, you pay attention. To ignore that message would be a staggering leadership failure. Layer that onto the broader context of Browns history, and the significance becomes almost overwhelming. This franchise has spent decades wandering through quarterback purgatory, drafting high, overpaying veterans, swapping starters like overdue library books, and suffering through an endless cycle of mediocrity and false dawns. And now, almost by accident, they may have stumbled into the answer they've been chasing for years: a 5th-round pick who recently sat 4th on the depth chart. If Shedeur Sanders truly blossoms into the franchise quarterback his debut hints he could become, it would stand as one of the greatest draft heists the NFL has ever seen. It would vindicate Andrew Berry's decision to pull the trigger despite criticism and finally bring relief to a fan base tortured by instability under center. But that future only materializes if the Browns commit to Shedeur fully. No yo-yoing between starters, no scheme half measures, no hesitation that stunts his growth. Rotating him in and out, manufacturing a quarterback controversy, failing to tailor the offense to his strengths, those are the mistakes that could squander what might be the best opportunity Cleveland has had in decades. And make no mistake, the fans see it. The response has been overwhelming. Browns supporters, worn down by generations of disappointment, are not interested in watching another fleeting quarterback moment dissolve back into mediocrity. They watched Shedeur make every throw, carry himself like a veteran, thrive under pressure, and ignite an entire building. They're not going to accept a return to the original plan just because the depth chart once said so. Social media is stacked with demands to keep him at quarterback 1. Local radio has turned into a Shedeur Gabriel battleground. National analysts are weighing in. Pressure on Kevin Stefanski grows heavier every hour he declines to commit to the rookie. And the truth is simple: Shedeur Sanders has earned the right to remain the starter. His play, his preparation, his ability to command respect in the locker room, he has checked every box. Walking away from all of that to hand the job back to Dylan Gabriel would be viewed as a monumental organizational failure, one fans would never forget. Garrett's endorsement gives Shedeur credibility and influence that money cannot manufacture. When the face of the franchise publicly backs you, the internal dynamics shift, coaches reconsider, teammates align. Momentum forms, and once it builds, reversing it becomes almost impossible. The league has seen this story before. Teams that cling to veterans out of pride rather than performance usually collapse under their own stubbornness. Coaches who ignore the obvious quarterback solution often lose seasons and jobs. The lesson is clear. When a quarterback shows he can win, you ride with him regardless of draft slot, preseason projections, or organizational ego. So here we stand, watching one of the most compelling quarterback power shifts in football unfold live. Shedeur has the spark, the respect, and the backing of the franchise's most powerful voice. Gabriel, still in concussion protocol, awaits clearance. Stefanski is staring down the most defining choice of his tenure. And every Browns fan is holding their breath, hoping that this time, finally, mercifully, the organization chooses correctly. What do you believe happens when Gabriel returns? Should Shedeur remain QB1 after a historic debut? How much does Garrett's support alter the entire equation? And is it possible that Cleveland has finally found its franchise quarterback after decades of searching? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear where you stand. If you're still with me, you're clearly locked into this storyline and every twist still to come. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter in this quarterback battle. And if you believe Shedeur Sanders should be the Browns' starting quarterback going forward, hit the like button and share this video with every Browns fan you know, because this is the biggest quarterback decision Cleveland has faced in generations. The moment of truth is coming. The answer is clear. Now we wait and see if Kevin Stefanski has the courage to choose correctly. Keep watching, keep believing, and come back soon for more. But countering that is the undeniable fact that Shedeur Sanders just became the first Browns rookie quarterback in 3 decades to win his debut, igniting the offense, energizing the locker room, and earning open endorsement from the franchise's most influential leader. The fan base is already demanding he keeps the job, and momentum like this cannot easily be put back in a cage. His ascent makes this storyline even richer, considering he was once projected by analysts as a first-round selection, even a potential top 10 pick, only to sit through round after round without hearing his name called. Yet now in Cleveland, he has delivered a debut so electrifying that the franchise's most powerful voice has essentially proclaimed him QB1. The Cleveland Browns locker room is sitting on a powder keg, and what Kevin Stefanski just did in his post-game press conference after Shedeur Sanders' dominant win over the Raiders may be the spark that blows the entire quarterback room apart. While fans were celebrating Sanders' impressive debut, while the dog pound was erupting over a 24-10 statement victory, and while Cleveland finally felt a pulse at quarterback, Stefanski stepped to the podium and delivered what can only be described as a calculated public reshaping of the depth chart, and possibly a career-altering blow to injured quarterback Dylan Gabriel. He did praise Shedeur, which was expected and deserved after a poised, efficient performance. 17 of 29, 152 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, clutch conversions, pocket mobility, and a total command of the offense that made the Raiders' defense look confused and reactive. This wasn't a fluke or a lucky afternoon. Sanders controlled the game, dictated tempo, and proved beyond any reasonable doubt that he belongs on an NFL field as a starter. Stefanski acknowledged all of that, highlighting Shedeur's composure and maturity, even smiling through portions of his remarks, a rarity for a coach who has lived with pressure and criticism for months. Had the press conference ended there, the narrative would have been simple. The rookie shined, and the head coach recognized it. But Stefanski didn't stop. He pivoted, and that pivot was not gentle. It was a shot fired with precision. When asked about Dylan Gabriel, still sidelined due to a shoulder injury, Stefanski said words that were framed as philosophy, but sounded exactly like indictment. In this league, it's not about potential. It's about production. Some guys talk about being ready. Shedeur showed he is ready. In one sentence, he drew a line between the quarterback on the sideline and the one winning games on the field. He suggested Gabriel talks readiness, while Sanders proves readiness. It was not neutral. It was not subtle. It was a public questioning of preparation, credibility, and professional worth. This lands even harder, considering the mystery surrounding Gabriel's absence. Official reports describe the injury as minor. yet he missed a meaningful game. Minor shoulder issues typically do not bench starting quarterbacks unless something deeper is brewing. Rumors suggest Gabriel and the coaching staff had been clashing about role, about play design, about trust. If there truly was tension behind the scenes, Stefanski's comments were not just an update, they were a message. And when Stefanski was asked if Gabriel automatically regains QB1 once healthy, he offered no safety net, no courtesy, no diplomatic buffer. He said only, "We will play the guy who gives us the best chance to win." Tonight, that guy was Shedeur. No coach speak, no neutral stance, no unifying language. It was a declaration. But countering that is the undeniable fact that Shedeur Sanders just became the first Browns rookie quarterback in 3 decades to win his debut, igniting the offense, energizing the locker room, and earning open endorsement from the franchise's most influential leader. The fan base is already demanding he keeps the job, and momentum like this cannot easily be put back in a cage. His ascent makes this storyline even richer, considering he was once projected by analysts as a first-round selection, even a potential top 10 pick, only to sit through round after round without hearing his name called. Yet now, in Cleveland, he has delivered a debut so electrifying that the franchise's most powerful voice has essentially proclaimed him QB1. Thank you guys, see you next video.